Welcome to Hot Takes and Headlocks, the only show where we interview you, pro wrestling fans, about your love for professional wrestling. I'm your host, Joe Zaletta. We have another great one for you tonight. But before we get to our guest, hit a stone cold stunner on that like and subscribe button on the Hot Takes and Headlocks YouTube page. Yes, we finally have a YouTube page where you can go check out our lives and our previous lives as well. If you're watching live tonight, light up our interactive chat and be part of the conversation. Let us know where you're chatting to us from. The more engaged our audience is, the better we can make the show for you. And finally, if you want to leave us some feedback or you want to be on an upcoming Hot Takes and Headlocks episode, email me at hottakesandheadlocks@gmail.com so we can schedule you for a future show. And now, our guest tonight. Last time, he was the singer, musician, and actor that checked all the boxes. However, since then, since his last appearance on Hot Takes and Headlocks, he is now nominated for an NJACT Perry Awards for his ensemble work with Pioneer Productions Company, Inc. in Jonathan Larson's Rent musical. IWC, here is Rostafa! Rostafa, you're on live with us, man. How are you feeling?
Well, other than this freaking hurricane that we're in, and I'm literally going through the freaking laser lights of this here neon of dirty Jersey, I'm doing okay. You know what I mean? Again, it's a little bit of a bumpy ride, but dude, life is good. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. So for those that don't remember what I look like, the reason why I do not have my pretty face up on this here camera, I mean, I could basically see if I could try to do it. Yeah, there I am. I can legitimately put myself here, but unfortunately, the wireless earbuds that allegedly Sony says are like top notch are basically not working with my device. So apparently I have to basically do this. And also, by the way, I prefer horizontal. You know what I mean? I prefer this way, but unfortunately I can't be sitting sideways on y'all. So basically we're stuck with that. So artsy fartsy I am. But I'm hanging out with one of my old homies from back in the day. He's a grown man now. He's got gray on his chin. I'm assuming those are wisdom hairs, and they're not gray hairs. They're not Gandalf yet. You got to earn them whiskers. But we're here, bro. What's going on?
Man, a lot has happened since the last time you were on the show, right? And you know, we obviously had the passing of Hulk Hogan, but even beyond that, SummerSlam has come and gone. We got the Karrion Kross situation. WWE now has a partnership with ESPN that starts next month. As I just heard about that earlier today, Naomi made a big announcement on Monday Night Raw, relinquishing her title because she has a great life event for her. She's gonna be expecting with her husband Jimmy Uso. So a lot of ground to cover, but also just we still didn't get to really scratch the surface enough with you about your pro wrestling fandom. So man, I feel like we got a lot to talk about. But first thing I want to talk about, keeping it current for just a moment, the Naomi relinquishing her title. So my first question for you, man, is now that that's happened, where do you think WWE Creative should go from here?
Well, first of all, let's all give a yeet to Naomi, and let's give a yeet to Big Jimmy. He laid down some pipe, and he was very successful. PG, brother. It was very good. You know what I mean? Again, this is the second time I think in recent memory where an active wrestler who happened to be the champion gets pregnant. And then ironically, that same wrestler goes on Twitter and kayfabe brother decides to take a jab at Naomi. No, but dude, it was cool, man. And it's funny. You watch that promo and how in character she was. She remained a heel, despite the fact that everybody knows that this is a babyface type thing, but yet she's like, I'm a heel, damn it. I'll call you a heifer, her a heifer, all y'all heifers. And then the next thing you know, she goes on Twitter again, Naomi this time, and it's like, y'all heifers better throw me a baby shower. So there's going to be something going on, maybe a Wednesday, maybe a Thursday when they have days off. But no, dude, it's going to be gonna be cool, man. I actually can't wait for the baby to be born. Hopefully all goes well, because even she had, I think, admitted on the podcast that Stephanie McMahon had, where I mean, it was hard for her to become fertile, I think, or it was very difficult for her to get a baby made. So again, this is a blessing, and even Roman Reigns says, like, this is all God sent. So good on Naomi. I think it's gonna be great. I don't think it derails her in any way, because, dude, if you're WWE at this point and you're in creative, how can you derail somebody, especially when the gimmick was getting over like crazy as a heel? She's not the first woman or man to cash in Money in the Bank while a match is going on, and basically wins it right off the bat, off of a individual who is down and out. So this is going to be a very interesting set of circumstances when she does come back. And dude, I love it when she just said 9 months and change, because again, it ain't going to be exactly once the baby's out. Because remember, for anybody who's ever had a baby, we don't know because we're guys. Basically that you have to get back in shape, you have to get back into the gym, you gotta eat right, you have to make sure your mindset is right. And a woman, all power to her, if that's what she wants to do, to come back as early as possible. Great, but again, no, don't rush it. Like, enjoy being with your baby, enjoy being with your newborn, and just have fun, because mommy and daddy duty is going to be interesting, because again, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins bring their baby out. I think a few other wrestlers do that as well, Cody included. But more power to them if they can make it work. And there is a way to make it work now, because I don't think WWE looks down upon anybody getting pregnant. Maybe kind of like they did back in the day, if somebody did get pregnant, it was like unforgivable.
Are you kidding me, man? This bloodline is never gonna end. They're for all we know, they're probably thinking like, all right, we're gonna keep this going another 2 or 3 decades. We can keep this bloodline angle going.
And 97 cousins later.
Man, it's gonna be that. I swear, man, that bloodline angle will never end. They may call it something different down the line, but that family, man, is gonna have wrestlers in the business forever. But now that Naomi has left the title, we now need a new champion. Now the title is vacant, so we don't know what they're going to do just yet. We don't know if they're going to do a tournament. We don't know if it's going to be just someone's going to be in Naomi's place for Clash of Champions, because she was supposed to go up against Stephanie Vaquer at Clash in Paris, not Clash in Champions, Clash in Paris. So if they're just going to put someone in Naomi's place against Stephanie Vaquer, who are some of the female talent that come top of mind for you that could fill in for Naomi's spot?
Well, I mean, again, I would think absolutely 100% that Valkyria should be the number 1 contender, or at least in that spot, whoever the finalist is going to be. You have a couple options. I mean, they're doing some really interesting stuff with Bayley. I don't have it all figured out yet as far as like what her character will be, whether she's just going to be a psychopath, whether she's just going to be, almost kind of like a duplex, kind of like with Ron Killings. And the funny thing is with Ron Killings, it's like he came back and then it just dropped everything. So the main thing is that if you're going to go up against Stephanie Valkyr, 2 things come to mind. One is that Stephanie doesn't need the title just yet, I feel, even though this one day she will be the champ. But if you're going to do it, you might as well get a heel to make it mean more for Stephanie to win it. Which, by the way, I personally feel that when Stephanie does win it, Naomi's probably going to come back and she's going to reclaim the title and they go back and forth, which I think would be quote unquote best for business. But put a heel in that title picture and let them get a run. And I think Bayley would be at the top of the list. You can also use Roxanne Perez you don't want to use because she's fresh. Raquel maybe, but she's busy with the Judgment Day as far as like trying to get those tag titles, and everything like that back. So there are a couple of options that you can do. You could even try. What was I thinking of? Basically, you could even try maybe get somebody from SmackDown in trade. But again, at this point, the trades and the lottery, if you want to call it, trying to draft everybody from Raw to SmackDown. To me, it's worthless. I hate them. They never really made sense to me. So yeah, I guess put it on Bayley. I
Put it on
guess.
Bayley. Yeah. You know, I thought of Bayley as well. These vignettes, we've had 2 weeks of vignettes with her where she's sort of like got voices in her head. Like you hear clips of her old heel character with Ding Dong Idiot or something like that. So it does seem like that she is spiraling back into a heel. Um, I had a thought that who's like aside from Rhea Ripley, who else is a top female talent in the women's division? I thought of Becky Lynch. What if they put two titles on Becky Lynch again, where she's the world champion and the intercontinental champion?
Well, you could do that, but I think honestly, it discredits the Intercontinental title that Becky has, because even if you could put two belts on somebody, like for example, Mercedes Moné, she's got multiple titles on her, and I think it was John Alba that actually quoted, it's like, no, not just John Alba, it was Lance Storm. He said that it's nice. Okay, granted, you have a lot of titles on you, but again, there might be titles that people don't even know about, or people may not put in the same regard. And for the longest time, the Intercontinental title, no matter if you're a man or a woman, was the workhorse title. And those are the people that have like the best matches on the card, the most length time. And I look at the Intercontinental title as something you want to keep separate, especially for the women, because it's fairly new to the company. And again, there's a lot of titles in that company anyway with WWE. So keep it kind of separate for now. And like I said, I'd rather it being on a heel than being on a babyface, as much as I love Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and Asuka. And, I mean, again, you could turn Asuka heel based upon what's been happening recently on Raw, but I kind of don't really feel like that would be necessary. I mean, you could put her as a heel and put her in, let's say, a tournament or a battle royal, and then Rhea and Asuka can have a feud. But I mean, you want to put it on somebody that is fresh. And even though that Bayley is a veteran, again, this is a fresh point of view with her character, which would give even more dimension with the title. Not that she needs it, but I think it would be a good way to have Stephanie Valkyrie, Io, Rhea, and others to kind of have something to go up against, because Bayley is unstable if that's what the direction is and what they're going in. Because, you could somewhat say that it's kind of Wyatt-esque, but it's not quite there, because it's a completely unique thing, because I think it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. You mentioned that it would probably be best held by a heel. The other one that I would say that might check the boxes would be Raquel Rodriguez. Putting it on her, giving her a singles run with the women's title. What do you think about that?
With Raquel, it would be interesting. I mean, again, I know she's come back from a lot of adversity. Again, she had a lot of issues dealing with her health, shingles, I think it was, or whatever the redness that she had on her body, and that's no joke, bro. Especially being a young female and you getting that, it's not cool. And we've seen videos of her, suffering over it, and her making a comeback, and she lost basically her boyfriend got let go from the company, and so it would be interesting for her as a heel to get the title and maybe cause some dissension in the in the Judgment Day. And of course, obviously, when Liv Morgan comes back, there could be a little bit of that, and they could feud for it. So nothing not against it, but I definitely think that there's something specific going on with the Judgment Day where I don't think they want to pull the trigger on it just yet. Plus, also, they just started Raquel and her new partner and everything like that. So they're trying to make that, Roxanne Perez, trying to make that a very cohesive thing. Because again, eventually, when Liv Morgan comes back, then it's going to start that triangle sort of kind of feud.
Yeah.
And it's going to be mainly about friendship and like, who the hell are you taking my place, blah, blah, blah type of thing. You lost titles. You know, I wouldn't have done that if I was with my partner type of thing. So it's pretty much going to be kind of like that, I feel. So Raquel could be a choice, but I don't think it would be the right choice.
Fair point. Fair point. You mentioned, you said the word, you know, worker. How did you describe the
Workers
IC
title? Workers title.
Thank you. You describe it as the hard workers title. So I want to take that, but I want to shift the conversation over to the World Heavyweight Championship. So as you know, we had Gunther as a champion. Then it was CM Punk who won it at SummerSlam, and then Seth Rollins cashed it in, and now he is now our World Heavyweight Champion. So my question in regards to that title, we've had that title now for about 2 years. Do you feel that title is now in aligned on an equal level with the undisputed heavyweight championship?
No. Both titles are different. One is obviously has more lineage. The other one is fresh. Even though that Seth Rollins was the perfect choice for that title and when it first initially won it, I thought that was a great choice. And he really worked his ass off to try to like make it equal. But the thing is that as good as Seth Rollins was and is, Roman Reigns' status at that time when he was the WWE Undisputed Champion was far beyond what Seth Rollins was. Because like I said, he had the title up to that point for over 1,000 days. So again, you can't compare apples to apples in this case, even though that Seth, the reason why they made the title was because Roman Reigns won both titles the WrestleMania previously against Brock.
Yep.
And they needed another title. And there were 2 shows with literally over 100 plus wrestlers. So the World Heavyweight title, as good as it is, and especially when Gunther won the World Heavyweight title, and I'll be quite honest with you, it didn't compare to his Intercontinental title run. When he was the IC champion, he made that belt so significant. And it wasn't just because of the long reign. It was because the man behind the title made it so. And I mean, again, the best match of Gunther's that I've seen, other than like a few other ones that happened in previous years, was the WrestleMania triple threat match that he had with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. 5-star.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to use Meltzer as an example of how you measure a match. That match, if you look at it from bell to bell, and they just beat the crap out of each other because each one of those guys wanted to win that match. That's how important the title was. When he won the World Heavyweight title, I mean, again, the first time he won it under controversial fashion. So he had to prove it, and then he eventually did, but it was kind of short-lived, and then he won the title back. And I understood why, because he wanted to, give Jey Uso that rub, which I thought was a shock to me when he did win the Royal Rumble. But I look at it from the point of view of longevity and just going back and referring to, currently that Seth has it now. It's mainly for storyline purposes to really heat up that title for whoever's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, which I believe, not that he needs the title because he already won it, he doesn't necessarily need it, is CM Punk. You know what I mean? Anything can change from now until next year because, again, when originally, I believe, Punk was supposed to face Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania 40 in Philly, which I was there for. Oh, and, unfortunately, when that got nixed, it's like, okay, we're going to make a tag match, put Seth and, Cody together against Rock and Roman. And then, of course, obviously the next night was Roman and Cody. I got it. And also remember, it was, in hindsight, it was probably better that it was a tag match because Rock was limited despite the fact that Roman did most of the work. And, of course, obviously you want to save Seth because Seth had a bad wheel. Yeah. And he had to wrestle both nights also and took a little bit of time off after that. And Seth doesn't get enough credit for, being the guy that had to do both jobs, both nights. So again, it just goes to show that, again, Seth is a great champion, especially for the World Heavyweight title. But then I also felt bad for Gunther because as good as Gunther was and is, Gunther is kind of like the black sheep of the whole thing is he gets lost in a shuffle. And Punk still in a program and is going to be in that fatal four-way the next PLE. You know, again, I do feel in my heart of hearts that it's going to be Punk and Seth at WrestleMania 42 in Vegas. But as going back to the original question, the World Heavyweight title, I don't feel that it's equal with the WWE title, despite the fact that Paul Heyman and, you know, others that are a part of that storyline are just trying to heat it up as best they can, because it's just apples to pomegranates at this point.
They're trying, man. Like, they gave, like, that ending to night one of SummerSlam, they were giving it a lot of shock moments. CM Punk being victorious against Gunther, his first moment of raising the title, and boom, you hear Seth Rollins and music. He comes out, you find out that he's not injured. He drops the crutches. Like, there were a lot of memorable moments to the end of night one. So my point is that they're really trying, but I'm sort of in agreement with you too. There's just so much more history. There's still more weight to the undisputed title versus the workhorse world heavyweight title. But I will give them credit where credit is due. They really are trying to make that title mean something.
100%. I mean, again, you know, look at the guys that have held the title so far. Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, Gunther, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre for a little bit, CM Punk for a little bit. So, again, you have a collection of guys that are workhorses any given night of the week. Even at CM Punk's age, he can still go. And I know there's a lot of people that say, oh, he's old, he ain't what he used to be, this and that. Ric Flair wasn't what he used to be, but again, he went out there and killed it. You know, same thing with Rock, went out there and killed it. So again, it's not a matter of age, it's a matter of, can you produce emotion from a crowd, which, by the way, CM Punk can do. Now, there was even criticism. By the way, I was in the arena for SummerSlam both nights.
Nice. All right. Yeah.
And I was there watching Punk and Gunther. Now, obviously, you had saw a lot of different stuff earlier on in the night, so the crowd kind of got tired a little bit. Plus, also, it was a little bit different because Night 2, for me, stole the show of the weekend. But on night one, there was a lot of chain wrestling between Punk and Gunther until it got physical, and they built it up and told the story. So Punk is that kind of wrestler where he wants to tell a story more so than do a bunch of high spots, right? And I look at Gunther in the same way, despite the fact that Gunther can wrestle any kind of style and be able to adapt to somebody's style in order to still wrestle his game, which, by the way, is so simple and so old school that regardless of any given point in time period, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, he can wrestle in any era and still be over. Punk, in the same way, can be as well. It's just that, again, you know, there's a lot of people. I mean, we've been listening to reports here and there on the internet where Punk is allegedly still hard to deal with in the locker room and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, honestly, if the brother's drawing money, what do you have to be angry about? And also, not only withstanding the fact that it's not only that he's drawing money for the company, he's drawing money for you as well, because he's still a draw. And I mean, I think it's today where it was 4 years ago where he came back to wrestling, and a lot has changed since that time. So I think him being the world heavyweight champion would be a cool thing, because again, winning it at WrestleMania, which, by the way, the main event of WrestleMania was all he wanted. He didn't care about winning a title. He didn't care about it being a title match. He just wanted the main event, and he was the main event. And kudos to him. He lived his dream. And again, that's why I feel that he is who he says that he is. And I believe that that pop when he wins the world heavyweight title is going to be deafening. But again, no, Seth being a heel is getting babyface reactions because of his theme song.
Yep.
And they're keeping it on him, no different from Cena when he kept his theme song and everything. And I was there for that too, where he ran down the aisle and everybody popped like it was freaking 2005, you know. But I think the WWE title, and again, I'll say this till the cows come home, again, not only because of the lineage, but also remember Roman, and then it was Cody. and Cody's been doing a great job as champion, especially, the fact that they dropped the belt to Cena for a little while just to give him that rub. And then, of course, with Cody, and again, he didn't have to go heel in order to do it, but I understand why, because they wanted to try for shock value. But again, no, because Rock wasn't there and Rock was failing and Travis Scott was failing, it just didn't make any sense anymore. So it's unfortunate, but hey, Cody's still on top, and he's a champion again, and he's got a couple of good opponents to go against right now, especially with Drew McIntyre and people like that. So I think as long as there's good storytelling, I mean, again, both titles mean something. It's just that I feel that the WWE title means more than a World Heavyweight title at this point.
Well said. Well said. I was at SummerSlam as well, and where I was sitting both nights, I have people around me. Speaking about the kids specifically, man, I saw some kids in the audience both nights where there were some core memories getting made, man. Whether it be for CM Punk winning, then finding out he was losing, or John Cena's entrance. It starts off with the regular black and white, and then it turns into colors, and then I see this kid just jumping for joy because the old John Cena is back. A lot of emotional tugs, like those heartstrings getting pulled, man, that night is what I saw. But bringing it back to you though, in terms of moments that get you emotional with pro wrestling, what are some ones that come top of mind, man? Ones that really just pulled on those heartstrings, where you felt tears coming down your face, or just an overzealous amount of joy and happiness with the moment that happened before your eyes.
Wow, there's a few. The first one, I'm going to go back. It wasn't necessarily a tearjerker, but it was emotionally driven internally. When Rock won the title from Triple H, Backlash 2000, MCI Center, Washington, D.C., April 30th, 2000. I remember like it was yesterday. It was the first pay-per-view I ever watched. My dad bought it for me because I begged him, because I originally wanted to get WrestleMania 2000. And I couldn't get it, but he got me Backlash. And I remember getting I didn't have a fresh VHS tape like to record it, but I just ran over another videotape that I remember I probably should have done. I probably should use another videotape. But I remember just watching Rock do that double rock bottom of Triple H and Shane through the table. And if you remember that spot, the table exploded and the crowd lost their shit. It was so good. And then Vince McMahon and Stephanie sold it just as good as Triple H and Shane sold it, just their jaws hanging open and the crowd going nuts. That's when I realized, I was like, all right, I want to stick with the wrestling. I want to stick watching this. This is not just a come and go thing. And of course, obviously, Rock winning the title, Stone Cold coming out, hitting everybody with chairs. That to me was awesome. Another moment for me was, wow, I mean, there's a few. Definitely my first wrestling event, One Night Stand in 2006. I wish I would have went to the one the year before. I wish I would have went to the one the year before, because I don't know what it was, but ECW I never watched because, again, I was too young for it, and it had got out of business in 2001. But I had heard stories for years about these types of matches, that type of match, who was in ECW for a time. Didn't realize that Austin was in ECW until a little while later. How people got their start, and how things developed and how ECW revolutionized the industry. But again, 2005 pay-per-view, one of my favorite shows. But I went to the one in 2006 where I legit was scared, because I thought that sign in the crowd that said, "If Cena wins, we riot," I was scared to death. I was with my godfather. I'm like, bruh, this is going to be insane. But I'll give you a little, I'm breaking kayfabe right now with this. My godfather brought some binoculars with it. We were on the floor level, but he didn't bring the binoculars to look in the ring. My godfather is so crazy. He's like, "Hey, yo, check out some of the birds that are in the audience." And he's talking about the ladies that, the evening. I was checking them all out. They were fine. That's a bond, man. I'll tell you.
Hell yeah, man.
But probably some other ones. Going to certain my first indie shows, local. ECPW was one of them. There's also a few other ones, ISPW. But I probably would say one of my favorite moments being live, I was in Orlando for WrestleMania 33. And when the Hardy Boys entrance theme hit,
Oh,
I never heard a crowd response that loud. I mean, TV doesn't do it justice. I'm sorry. You can watch on TV and you can feel the emotion, but when you're there live, it is just joygasm. I mean, every fiber you're beating, you get goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. And this was at the time when the Broken Universe was sort of kind of being played upon because, Rebby Hardy's going on Twitter going, F that Al,
yeah.
because, the company at the time was just not having it. But it was cool seeing them come back. But I was also a little bit upset because I was thinking Enzo and Cass were going to win that night because they were so over, dude. I mean,
So over. Yeah.
that they were over like Rover, bro. And but it was a great moment for me to watch that. And of course, obviously, I think one of my favorite matches that night was actually Triple H and Seth Rollins because I loved the match because it was building to the finish. Who's going to get the first pedigree and who's going to win? They protected the finish. They did everything they could to make each other look good. And that's when Seth came back from that knee injury, too. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, there's a lot of moments that I have. And again, but I'll say WrestleMania 40 was cool because I got to be there for 2 nights. And that was the first WrestleMania of the TKO era. So I was part of history of that, being the inaugural WrestleMania. And then, of course, obviously seeing Rock wrestle one more time was awesome. So yeah, quite a good number of memories, both live and watching at home.
That's so cool, man. Yeah. I'll share a couple of mine. And first one would be CM Punk's return. More importantly, CM Punk's return to WWE was an important one for me, just because that
It's
was
Chicago. It's Chicago. It's Chicago.
Yeah. Oh man, I can see myself back in that moment. So first off, for those that don't know, we have up here in the thumbnail, Jeff right here. So for those that don't know, Jeff passed away in 2023, and that was the year that CM Punk returned to WWE. And for me, that was just emotional for me, just because, like, oh man, like I wish Jeff was still here to be able to see this return. Something that he and I thought was probably never ever going to happen, just because of how strained the relationship was between Punk and WWE. And then the other moment that, no matter how many times I rewatch it, it's Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24. I'm sorry, I love you. Bam, super kick. And now he is done as far as the WWE match is concerned. Ric Flair was done after that. Those were my emotional moments for me.
It's funny. I actually wanted to bring up another.
Rostafa. Looks like we have lost Rostafa for a moment. We're going to keep this going to see if he ends up coming back in. There you are. We got you back.
The government hates wrestling. I'm telling you this right now. They want to come after wrestling fans. They want to come after wrestling podcasters, ESPN, WWE, anybody out there that's like working hand in hand, dude. You're not going to stop this podcast. It will continue. So yeah. You bring up Jeff. One of my what you talk about memories and stuff. One of my favorite memories. I mean, we were there for the IZOT Center, April 8th, 2013, Monday Night Raw, the night after WrestleMania 29. It's probably the greatest Raw in the history of Raws. And not because it was the best card, not because it was the best presentation, but because the fans say, screw this booking, screw this company for insulting our intelligence, screw this writing team, all this stuff. We're taking over this show. I mean, the chance that we're not even on television, I remember even more because, like, for example, we were in the dark and during commercial break, and our side of the arena is going, our side's awesome, and going, that side sucks. I mean, again, just the little things like that. And then, of course, my greatest memory is just walking out and everybody just singing and dancing to the Fandango theme.
Fandango theme, yep.
You gotta understand, bro. Like, they dropped the ball with Fandango. I mean, there was a lot of things that they dropped, but dude, Dolph Ziggler winning the title that night, all of us cheering for the heels, you know, and all of us like basically like literally hijacking the Randy Orton Sheamus match. By the way, if you remember, Randy Orton couldn't remember his line. He's like, "What's my line?"
Yeah.
And you know, it was horrible, but dude, we made do. And
during the match, the entire arena is doing the wave.
More than just the wave, we were doing the wave, cheering Mike Chioda. Jerry Lawler got a chant. Yeah, dude, JBL.
Yeah.
Dude, the ice cream guy. This is before ice cream bars or after ice cream bars became a thing.
Yep.
It was insane. But no, there's other moments too. I mean, again, you talk about emotional moments. Obviously, we lost a lot of wrestlers over the years. Owen Hart being one, that's emotional.
Yeah.
Of course, Eddie Guerrero was huge for me because, you know, Eddie was, you know, his life story is like, you know, it's of legend now, but you know what I mean? It's like at the time you didn't realize how great he was until, you know, after the fact. And then also, you know, in recent years, Brody Lee.
Yeah.
You know, that was, and by the way, that's one of the reasons why CM Punk came back to wrestling, because of how classy that was, of what they were able to do in AEW. And by the way, still one of my favorite tribute shows ever, if not the perfect tribute show.
That was, you know what, I was gonna. That's probably a question that we were gonna lead into a little bit later. But since we're on it, you know, like you said, we've had a lot of pro wrestler passings in the last decade or two. You know, you mentioned Brody Lee was one of them. Are there others besides Brody Lee and Owen Hart that really just, you know, cut you deep on a personal level?
Definitely Eddie. Eddie, I remember because he died on the Sunday, and I didn't find out until Monday morning.
Yeah.
And what I remember, though, because remember, this is before cell phones. I mean, we had cell phones, but they're not like the mobile phones that we have now. So it was all flip phones and, you know, razors and all that stuff. And then, of course, we didn't really have social media to the extent we have it now. We had MySpace, but that was about it. And WWE.com was at the time was like really the only source, other than, let's say, like, you know, Meltzer or the dirt sheets and stuff. And we were just getting news by the day. I said, you know, again, I just remember that press conference that Vince and Chavo had, and you know, it was very sad. I mean, it was one of those things where you didn't expect it coming. But it's funny though, Dusty Rhodes had the greatest quote in the world to summarize it all. Eddie Guerrero died to become a main eventer, and he succeeded. And that probably sums up that whole thing. But I look at it more so of, you know, I remember the tribute shows. I actually have the tribute show somewhere on VHS, and they really hit home because everybody, you know, again, they paid tribute, and again, they didn't have to work that night. That's another thing that most people don't know. If you're a worker or wrestler, you don't necessarily have to work if you don't want to, but the fact that the guys that did, that was cool. And they all put on great showings, and all the tributes were cool. And I actually, you know, it's funny. I remember Vince giving his tribute to Eddie and getting very emotional about it because Vince knew how hard Eddie worked to get back on track, but he also worked as hard to remain Eddie Guerrero, because again, Eddie Guerrero could have been a shadow of his former self if he stayed on the path. He could have, you know, ended up in rehab again. He could have, you know, died quicker, but it goes to show that, you know, again, the power of Eddie was willing and able to, you know, really, you know, to get his life together and, you know, be the father and husband that, you know, he always was meant to be. And the one thing that I probably miss about Eddie the most is just the fact that we were able to watch him week to week and just, you know, kind of just be that quote unquote character that we just all loved and admired, and, you know, the potential what he could have done later. Like, for example, being a movie star. He could have been, you know, one of the trainers and coaches in NXT.
Yeah.
If he had lived. Like, dude, allegedly one of the matches that was talked about for WrestleMania 22 was Eddie versus Shawn Michaels.
Wow. Could you imagine if we had that match?
Incredible. Oh. You could have turned Eddie could have been heel and Shawn could have worked babyface. It didn't matter. Like just the two going in the ring and just having that chemistry would have been awesome. And I still envision my would have been a career of 97, like all shredded and just, you know what I mean? Just, you know, the long, you know, mullet, all that stuff, and just doing his thing in comparison to, let's say, maybe Shawn Michaels of 96, just in the best shape. Like what, you know, kind of match what we have had. But it's it just goes to show that, like, again, even in, you know, what ifs, you know, again, what we have is what we have. So just be grateful that, you know, Eddie was around and was great as he was.
Yeah, well said, man. Let's shift things over to something to something current. So, first off, have you checked out WWE Unreal?
It's funny, I have not, and I don't want to, because a couple things. One, breaking the fourth wall. I mean, again, we always imagined it, but I don't want to know how the sausage is made. I don't know. I don't want to know how the meetings are going. I'm being filmed and this and that. And also, to be quite frank with you, like, I mean, again, I remember back years ago, and I don't remember who did it, but there was a program where they had one camera or two filming Vince doing a booking meeting with the creative, and they stayed there for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. And then Vince is like, okay, y'all need to leave after like about that time. So they gave him just a little bit of a taste, right? But you know, so like for example, like Paul Heyman snuck in enough of Dusty Rhodes meetings where he goes like, brother, what are you doing? It's just like, I'm trying to be you. And I'm like, well, I'm a super genius and you're here with the greatest booker of all time, baby. But no, yeah, so I'm not into that. But I will say that what's clever about Unreal is that they're trying to only give you so much, and yet they're still trying to work you. But what's even crazier is that the locker room is being worked. I mean, we were talking about this earlier with Seth Rollins and the knee injury. I had a feeling that it was a work because, funny enough, Bully Ray on Busted Open said, have you realized there's not been that much coverage on Seth Rollins since he got injured? And only outside sources have been talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, the idea worked. I mean, again, we want to go on the ride, right? As fans, we want to go on the ride. But if I'm going to check out Unreal, and especially now that they're scheduled for season 2, like, again, I don't want to know all the details because I actually want to not be spoiled and enjoy what I'm seeing on television, what's being presented.
Yeah, man. I checked it out, and it is so crazy to see where we are now because, you know, 25 years ago or even 10 years ago, you know, smartphones, the internet was really all that could be used to expose secrets from behind the scenes backstage. And now we're living in a time, you know, WWE is now owned by TKO, where they're in business with Netflix. Now it's like, you know what? No need. We're gonna pull back the curtain ourselves. But even watching it, I agree with you. I still get the feeling that this is still a heavily produced WWE show. They're only showing you what they're gonna let you see. And, you know, even with that, one of the things that I saw that I was very shocked as to how far back they pulled back the curtain was what led up to the Cena heel turn at Elimination Chamber, and I'll just leave it at that. You know, I'll recommend you to just watch it. It's the second episode of the Unreal season 1. That would be one to just really check out, just because they really don't just talk, but they also show you how that moment came to be, directed in real time by Triple H.
Yeah, and again, I'm of the ilk where I just don't like certain barriers being knocked out. And yes, we like to read into the gossip sometimes as fans and like the little pieces of information, but even then, it's not all true. So again, and at this point, it's funny. It's almost as if, and somebody once told me this, where it's almost as if now wrestling, especially under WWE's care, it's like they're almost doing espionage type of work. They'll only leak out so much, or they'll just straight out lie to the dirt sheets to give them something to work with. And then blah, blah, blah. And for years, by the way, WWE and AEW, TNA, almost every major wrestling company was leaking out information deliberately. And, again, it's not like, they're just, okay, we're just going to report lies and just automatically crap on them. But it's like, yeah, it's like you only have so much information that you can give. And also, by the way, not just The Office, but the boys, the wrestlers, are giving information when they shouldn't, because then why are you what get you in barely audience even reads, like only internet people about that, not literally mainstream casual fans.
Your audio was breaking up a little bit right there, so I didn't get to hear the last.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you're right.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is, it's like, why, again, try to convince casual fans to follow along dirt sheets that they don't even read, and why would they want to read them?
Got you. What was that? What was here it is. So you've been watching pro wrestling since 2000, right? So 25 years?
Yeah, 25 years.
All right. So in that 25 years, has there ever been a gap in your love for pro wrestling?
Really, no. I mean, and it's funny. Like, there was times where, let's say, I didn't watch, let's say, like a Raw or a SmackDown for a while because I was doing something on the side, right, but I would catch up with stuff, right? Or there was a time, actually, and this is something a lot of people don't know. So before that, in July 2000, I lost cable for almost 5 years, and I didn't get back until May of 2005.
Okay.
And this was, I think, right before Raw moved back to USA. They were on Spike TV, because they made a deal. And I think that, if I remember correctly, it was September of 2000 where Raw moved from USA to TNN, which later became Spike. And basically, the reason for that was to basically shove ECW out of that time slot, on Fridays, or just to say, hey, we have one wrestling program. We don't need ECW anymore for whatever reason. But yeah, there was that.
Okay. So,
and there was that time period where I didn't have cable for 5 years. So I was only able to watch SmackDown.
All right. I mean,
I basically missed the whole original draft and all that stuff. And, and I also, I missed certain moments on Raw that I wish I did see. But I would get like VHS tapes from people that would tape it and stuff. And certain moments, like, for example, somewhere I have the Raw where Triple H came back and it was in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I wish I was there for that. I was too young for it, though. And other moments, like for example, WrestleMania 20 and the lead up to that, incredible. But yeah, there was a little bit of time where I missed like Raws for a while, but like I still remain loyal to different companies and stuff like that at that point, which at that point in 2005, that's when I started watching TNA because they ended up on Spike TV.
Okay. I mean, overall, though, you never had a gap in pro wrestling itself. It was just due to circumstances, you just couldn't watch the product.
Right. I was still a wrestling fan. And again, like, everybody wanted to be a wrestler. So like, that was kind of like, the thing. So you just were so loyal to it, despite the fact from like 2007, 8 to about maybe 2022-ish, it was really tough to watch. I mean, there were great moments. There were great storylines, but as a consistent show, it was very hard to watch. And, when Vince kind of stepped down and Hunter took over the booking, that's when you saw the change. I'm like, okay, now this is really cool. And then I remember it was like a breath of fresh air. It was Michael Cole on SmackDown saying professional wrestling over the microphone. And I'm like, oh my God, We can say it. Kevin Dunn's about to leave himself as well. So I'm like, we can say it now. We're free. I felt like the black people in The Wiz. Can you feel a brand new day?
I love it. I love it. So I'm glad. So I'm glad that you mentioned all of that, especially bad creative here and there, because my lead up question to what we're talking about is what keeps your fandom for pro wrestling going after 25 years?
Honestly, it's the imagination, the wonder, and more importantly, the unpredictability. And what keeps me in suspense is hoping that there's authenticity to an originality of storytelling and logic. Because a lot of times in wrestling, there's things that you could say, okay, we'll just write this and we'll just forget about it. But that's the thing, though. Wrestling fans are smart enough not to forget certain things that occurred. Like, for example, Terry Runnels having a miscarriage. Like, what, Vince Russo? Are you kidding
Oh
me?
my gosh.
Also, the time where they cosplayed Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and McCain just to do a spot on television. Which, again, who cared? Didn't matter. But there was this other thing. I mean, the Kevin Federline thing, I will not bring up at all, even though that I just brought it up. Don't even get me started on that crap. But there was that. And yeah, and also, the Raw GMs and stuff like that. But don't just think that was just WWE. Even in TNA, when Hogan and Bischoff came in, I mean, that was a downhill battle right there. And then when they try to go head to head Monday nights, I'm like, you're absolutely out of your mind. I still go back to it was Brian Alvarez who said in an interview, I would rather have a gold boat. I'd rather have a gold boat and just put it in my front yard, take a look at this, than to, look at this crap. I'm just paraphrasing, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And I really just don't, care for a lot of just the inexcused, just because it makes Vince laugh type of theory. I just don't like that at all. Or years legs, they were on their last legs. It was like, how are they still alive? They're like the cockroach of professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, they are literally on their last legs. But then the turnaround comes when Scott D'Amore brought it back around. And then when they fired him, I was shocked. I'm like, dude, how the hell are you going to fire this guy when he brought back the words TNA and has been a great asset to your company? But again, I think because they had that partnership with WWE starting, I was like, okay, they have some ideas. And again, the partnership has been great with both of them. However, this is, in a lot of ways, I feel counter programming AEW in a lot of ways. And again, I'm a wrestling fan. I watch every show that I can, every company I can. But the biggest issue for me as a fan is, trying to want to superior over another. And again, there's no comparison with AEW and WWE, but the counter programming thing is mainly because I think, even though WWE wouldn't want to admit it, AEW in some way is a threat to their existence. Because the funny thing is that Stephanie McMahon would always say that competition is good. But again, if you're saying that AEW is not competition, but yet you're counter programming them, like, what the hell? So there's that. But as a wrestling fan, what keeps me interested is just, like I said, the wonder, the unpredictability, the originality, but also the authenticity. You got to be authentic. And me being an actor, me being a musician, me being a singer, you could sing the same song that has been sung for 1,000 years. What do you bring to it that's unique? What brings people to you that gravitate to you that say, I was emotionally touched by that? It's driven by emotion. And if the emotion's not there, then it's just a worthless story to not only behold, but also to constantly watching over and over again that has no traction.
So pro wrestling is changing a lot, and you can argue that it's changing for the better just from a business perspective, because they're making it more expensive to consume this content with every partnership that they make. But now with the partnership with ESPN, you can say that it's legitimizing the sport more than ever before. You know, I feel like gone are the days because of this partnership where you're going to be having those conversations with people saying, "Oh, you watch that fake pro wrestling stuff." You know, like, dude, this is on ESPN now. Like a dedicated sports channel is broadcasting pro wrestling now. So,
Well,
uh,
yeah. Well, remember, WWE had already had a partnership with ESPN a few years before. Like the link between WWE and talent and internet and announcer. So again, there was that bit of a link there. The deal. So you're making all these deals for the past couple of years. The deal with TKO, which brought in, I think, $9.3 billion. The Peacock deal, which I think brought in over $1 billion. You have the ESPN deal, which brought 1.6 billion for like 5 years or whatever it is. And then of course the Netflix deal, which is $5 billion for I believe 10 years. And again, there's a 5-year option where if Netflix and WWE want to part, they can do that. But going from a streaming service back to network television would kind of seem like, old hat. But I wasn't a fan originally when Netflix went and got Raw, which again, I understand from a business point of view, but it's just like there's all these streaming services where we're trying to keep up with all the wrestling. It's like that's why I love cable. It was all in one box. And if you got a pay-per-view or if you got a PLE separately, that was fine. But again, it's like, because the WWE is trying to make the argument where basically it's not as much as you thought it was. Because again, we've been spoiling you for 10 years ever since we brought in the WWE network. Well, I'm like, well, the network was fine. It had everything there. And then, of course, obviously Hulu now, I believe, is going to get gobbled up by Disney.
Yep, I heard about that.
Yeah. And again, the reason why Hulu worked well with WWE was because they would do all of the repeats of Raws and SmackDowns that were aired, but they were edited though. A lot of people don't know that. And you don't have that access now, where now it's just like, okay, you got different networks. And of course, obviously Peacock, it's upgrading their deal, as far as like being, I think, $16.99 now. And it's just literally killing the working class individual that just wants to keep up with wrestling. And of course, obviously going to a live event for WWE is absolutely insane because it's just a lot of money. So, the working class, they're going to do what they can to try to keep up with everything. But at the same token, though, like, I feel like there's going to be a bubble that's going to burst within the next couple of years, despite the fact that all these deals are made for the working class. There's just going to be a very bad, like, I can sense like we're going to enter like another recession, and I hope we don't. But I get that feeling where it's going to be very difficult, not only just to buy groceries and just make a living, but then also, like, again, just to keep up with wrestling is just going to be.
Oh, I think we lost your audio there.
Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what I was saying is that it's going to be very, very difficult to try to keep up, and like, because it's going to be very hard for, working class families to, keep up with all the wrestling, especially if they're wrestling fans and not just WWE fans.
Right. 100% agree with you on that. Pricing's going up. Like, I think I did the math the other day, and just to consume WWE on ESPN and Raw being on Netflix, that's just those two things right there. You're nearing $500 for the year annually just for those two subscriptions.
And by the way, just ordering ESPN alone is a separate price in comparison to ordering a PLE.
Yep.
So add that. And then, of course, obviously, I mean, again, we got NXT, we got SmackDown on cable still. But, I mean, again, within the next 5 to 10 years, maybe a little bit more if we're lucky. Like, again, WWE is going to move all their content to streaming platforms.
100%. Yeah.
And again, I feel bad for cable because, again, it's like, it's funny. Cable's like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, West Coast Video. Like, again, when GameFly and Netflix started becoming a thing, that basically said, well, wait a minute, we can order our stuff on demand when we want.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I don't have to go to the game store anymore. And then, we don't have to support our local stores. And then they folded. Same thing is going on even in the movie industry, where there are people that are going to, let's say, like, the AMC theaters or like the major chains to watch a movie, or they just wait for it to just come on a streaming platform, when realistically speaking, you want to support your small local theater houses that have these movies, because you not only keep them in business, but you're also still giving the movies revenue. Because again, the movies deserve that revenue and not just earn what they get on a streaming platform. And also, what those residuals will be, we don't know as far as deals go when it comes to movies and where they end up.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense. We're gonna start winding this down. We're nearing midnight, and I got my wife's birthday to celebrate tomorrow, so I want to be ready to be able to do that. I also want to be respectful for your time. I think you probably just got home, so we're gonna start winding it down with the last couple of questions that I have for you. So, if let's say you just befriended someone today and they have never seen pro wrestling before, they never watched a match, and you wanted to recommend them a match to watch, any company, any type of match, current or past matches from ways back, what would be the first match you would recommend someone who has never seen a pro wrestling match before?
I would say there's a few that it's male. I would say go watch Bret the Hitman Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin for WrestleMania 13, the submission
All
match,
right. Nice. Yeah.
because it had the feel of an old NWA match that was brought into the future, and there was rarely any holds. It was all punching and kicking and stretching, and just it summed up what a wrestling match should be. And by the way, Austin getting color, like, again, he almost got in trouble for that, but Bret took the hit and say it was done hard way, and he made it look believable that it was done hard way. So I would say that, yeah, that was that would probably be the match I recommend for the men. I would probably get, there's a few matches. One is Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, WrestleMania 39,
Oh, nice.
because
Yeah, that's a good one.
that was a 5-star. Like, the funny thing is, the longer that the wrestling match went, the better it got, and that's rare, because most of the time when you watch a long match, it's just like, oh my god, just have this end. But the audience was into it, and in my opinion, that was the best women's match of the year. And I will put that up against. Well, actually, no. Let me take that back. It was one of the best women's matches of the year, because again, you had, what was going on in AEW. You also had stuff that was going on in Japan. So it was definitely one of the best women's matches of the year. So that match, I would also recommend, even though that there was blood, I would say Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, and that, no rules match that they had, the lights out match in AEW. God, I mean, there's a few. Again, I would say Trish and Lita, when Lita broke her neck,
Oh my
and
god,
finished the match. And that was a
yeah.
main event of Raw. Like, dude, that's a great match. And there's other matches that I would recommend, but I would start with a couple of those, and then maybe another male match. For me, how can you go wrong with Hogan Andre?
Can't go wrong with that.
Or if you want true athleticism and wrestling prowess, you would have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, classic.
Yeah.
Classic match, man. Those are some really good picks. Very, very solid picks right there. So wrestling fans, it's very easy to criticize the product and talk about what WWE, AEW, whatever it is that you watch. It's very easy to criticize and talk about what they're doing wrong and what they should be doing instead. Now, flipping that for a moment, let's talk about the positive. In the last week or so, what have you seen that you could sit there and say, that was a good call, that was good creative, I approve of that?
Oh God. We talked about it before. Seth Rollins, again, pretty much fooling everybody, which again, there was a fine line with that, right? Again, reality and fiction. And, we're, because again, like I said, he was not being talked about on TV, but we were talking about it off TV, online, and he fooled mainstream I mean, that's how it's done. You got to do it that way. And they would take photos and he'd be in the cast playing with his daughter and this and that. I'm like, again, keeping kayfabe alive. That's kind of what it is. Other storylines, I mean, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Bella twins. I mean, again, I understand why they're in the Hall of Fame because they brought women to wrestling, specifically because of the reality TV shows. And I wasn't a fan of their storyline together at SummerSlam 2013. I hurl every time I think about it. But women's, I mean, again, the story with Rowdy Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch for WrestleMania 35 being the first women's main event to ever, do it was great. The problem was, and again, I have argued about this with several people, Charlotte Flair being added just because. And again, the booking of that, and Charlotte's booking half the time I've never liked, because I felt that, okay, if she wants to win as many championships as she has, like spread them out more, make it mean more. And also, like, even as a heel, especially when Vince was around, I didn't like her promos because they were very robotic and they weren't as riveting and as real. But nowadays, I can actually applaud Charlotte for her promos because it feels more organic. I mean, the thing that she did with Tiffany recently was not cool. And again, they revealed that on Unreal too, which I saw the clip of. Ooh, yeah. Do that. Yeah, Tiffany had to apologize, the whole nine.
Yeah. But
that's what you don't want to do. So the realism is perfect, and also just having that entering for
Cool. Rostafa, I want to so we're getting ready for the last question. Again, I just want to be able to thank you for your time, and I appreciate us being able to work together to make this part 2 happen. This is our first part 2 on Hot Takes and Headlocks. So
I make
really
history, bro.
Yeah, you make
That's what I
history
do.
for sure, man. Yeah, definitely. So last question, man. Here we go. So what can you say you have learned from your time watching pro wrestling? Is there anything that you can take away from watching pro wrestling the past 25 years that you hold on for that you hold on to yourself today, that you want to apply in life, or anything that you want to pass along to, future young ones in your family?
Well, one thing is never lose your childlike innocence or your childlike enjoyment. Again, we're all kids. Ultimately, we just grow older or we grow younger, depending on how your mindset is. And it amazes me how long it takes for, the man to go back to the child that he or she once were. It amazes me. So it's just that childlike excitement, and not to let anybody take away your joy, especially when people say the word fake. It's funny. Can't remember the wrestler that said this, but basically he said, well, come in the ring with me and let's work out, and I'll teach you this and that, and we'll see if it's fake or not. Because again, it's not a matter that it's fake. It's a predetermined outcome by athletes that are entertaining you under imaginary circumstances. It is no different from theater. It's no different from film. It's no different from any other form of entertainment. It's storytelling. And I want people to understand that this is a violent way of storytelling, but again, storytelling can be violent. But just because there's violence in it, it's not necessarily justified as violent sport. It's just that there's these characters and how they develop and how they grow and how they change. They go from being a good guy to a bad guy, or the development of redemption, right? So again, as long as there's stories being told, and storytelling is the base of our existence, has all how it's viewed. And yeah, stages, we had different eras, even all the way back to the carnival days where, back where it was just an attention, and women at that time were trying to be legitimized and be recognized as human beings, right? And people of African American descent or Latino descent or whatever, trying to be recognized and be respected in such a way. And what I take away from it is I take pride as a multiracial being that it's for everybody. man, woman, child, black, white, rich, poor, doesn't matter.
Definitely.
And I think if I were to pass it down to somebody and say, hey, what is wrestling? It's what you want it to be.
I love it. One of the best answers I've heard from that question. I love asking that question because I know I'm going to get a different answer every single time from whoever it is that I'm talking to. But I love the way you put all that together, man. Thank you so much. It's probably going to be one of the things that I'll clip from this for sure, so that way people can get a feel for what the show is like. I really appreciate the way you answered that, man. Thank you so much. All right.
Absolutely, brother.
And with that said, we have reached the end of the show. Rostafa, thank you again for coming on tonight. Is there anything you want to plug before we end tonight's show? Are you going to be popping up anywhere that you want people to check you out at?
Yeah, so I got a few things coming up. So yes, I just got nominated for Rent, the Jonathan Larson musical that I just did. It's my fourth one that I did. I think the award ceremony is in September, so wish me luck. It's one of those things where, you get nominated, and that's great. I mean, winning the award is a whole nother thing, but just being nominated is cool. And on November 15th, Saturday, November 15th, I'm going to be doing a concert charity event called The Last Waltz, which is by the band who did a historic 1976 concert that got made into a film that was released in 1978. This is our third year doing it in its entirety. We have multiple musicians involved, many of whom are from the North Jersey area, and it's charity for 501c3 a nonprofit called Tony's Kitchen, and there's also going to be a second nonprofit that we're going to work with and try to get on board. Can't reveal that just now, but it will be made available soon in the public. There's also other events that I have hopefully that are going to be in store, and hopefully to do a lot of wrestling stuff. Actually, give a shameless plug to these guys. ISPW, they're a local territory within New Jersey and wrestling company run by a guy named Tommy. And Tommy's just an amazing promoter, coach, all that stuff. There's actually another guy who works for Tommy, and basically he goes by Toto Tom. You need to get him on here. He would be a great interview because again, I in other words, we call him, they call him Toto Tom. I call him Tiddly Twat, but that's just between you and I. But yeah, there's that going on, and yeah, I mean, just stay tuned. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Rostafa101, at ROSTAFA101. And yeah, man, dude, it's been awesome, talking with you again. And again, we met a long time ago. A lot of people don't know that we met, back when I was, a baby Jay Lethal in the flesh, and still growing out my wisdom hairs. But yeah, dude. And by the way, I passed by the old Hooters that we used to watch wrestling at.
Yeah.
It's a ghost town, bro. And
Ghost
by the way,
town.
I will send you. I have it somewhere. I have the footage of one night where we were at. It was after we watched one of the pay-per-views, and it's me, you, and Jeff cutting a promo. And if I find it, I'll send it to you. It's hilarious. We could post it somewhere for for shits and giggles. But yeah, no, it was real cool that night. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm doing. And yeah, there'll be more of these.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you again for coming on. Guys, tune in next week. We're going to have John Ramos on the show. We're going to be back on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Hot Takes and Headlocks YouTube channel page. All right. Until then, we'll see you next week. Rostafa, have a good night. Thank you so much.
Deuces. Ooses.
What am I doing wrong? There we go. Boom.